And it comes from the book Hope from the Flowers by Trina Paulus. And we will begin. Gracious and loving God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable unto you, my God, my strength, and my Redeemer. Amen. Okay. So we've got Yellow and Stripe, who have come down from the caterpillar pillar. So Yellow and Stripe romped in the grass and ate and grew fat and loved each other. They were so glad not to be fighting everybody every moment. It was like heaven for a while. But as time passed, even hugging each other seemed a little boring. Each knew every hair on the other. Stripe couldn't help wondering, there must be still more to life. Yellow saw how restless he was and tried to make him extra happy and comfortable. Just think how much better this is than that awful mess we left, she said. But we don't know what's at the top, he answered. Maybe we were wrong to come down. Maybe now that we've rested, the two of us could make it up to the top. Dear Stripe, please, she begged. We have a nice home, and we love each other, and that's enough. It's so much more than all those lonely climbers have. She was so sure. Stripe let her convince him. But only for a while. Stripe's hankering for the climbing life worsened. The pillar haunted him. He crawled there regularly, looking up and wondering. But the top remained clouded. One day at the pillar, 3 thuds startled Stripe. 3 big caterpillars had fallen from someplace and smashed. 2 seemed dead, but one still wiggled. Stripe whispered, "What happened? Can I help?" He made out just a few words. The top. They'll see butterflies alone. And the caterpillar died. Stripe crawled home and told Yellow. They were both very sober and quiet. What did the mysterious message mean? Had the caterpillars fallen from the very top? Finally, Stripe announced, "I've got to know. I must go and find out the secret of the top." And more gently, "Will you come and help me?" Yellow struggled inside. She loved Stripe and wanted to be with him. She wanted to help him succeed, but she just couldn't believe that the top was worth all it asks to get there. She wanted to get up, too. The crawling life wasn't enough for her either. She also had to admit that it looked like the pile was the only way to do it. Stripe seemed so sure that Yellow felt ashamed not to agree. She also felt stupid and embarrassed, since she could never put her reasons into words that his kind of logic would accept. Yet somehow, waiting and not being sure was better than action she couldn't believe in. She couldn't explain. She couldn't prove anything, but for all her love, she couldn't go with Stripe. She just knew climbing was a wrong way to get high. "No," she said, heartsick, and Stripe left her for his climb. And we will continue next week. Oh. So, Jesus was warned. Jesus was warned. "Get out of here," they said. "Herod is out to get you." But Jesus was called to Jerusalem. He knew he had to go, even if the result was already ordained. Have you ever felt compelled to do something that you know is dangerous? Have you ever felt driven to follow a path that seems doomed to failure, and yet just could succeed? Most of us have felt that compulsion. Still, sometimes we follow a path because everyone else seems to be following that path. Last week, Stripe and Yellow decided that following all of the caterpillars up the caterpillar pillar, say that 3 times, following all the other caterpillars up the caterpillar pillar was not the path for them. And yet, there was still that nagging idea that everyone else knew something that they didn't know. And Stripe kept wondering what was at the top. Yellow, on the other hand, was curious about what was at the top, but wasn't willing to commit herself to the danger and the pain to find out. There's that compulsion again. The compulsion to join the crowd. Perhaps because we just believe that the crowd knows better than we do. Or perhaps because we believe that there must be something better out there or up there. We think that we can find happiness if only we push ourselves toward a goal. And sometimes that goal is very clear, with very clear possibilities. But sometimes, like the caterpillar pillar, it's a goal without any clear results. Jesus knew what the possible results were if he continued on his march toward Jerusalem. He knew that Herod was a puppet placed by the Romans. And Jesus knew that Herod feared those who would stand against Roman and Herodian oppression. Herod feared them. Herod feared them because his position, even his life, would be in danger if he lost control of the people. Herod's only recourse was to continue to oppress, to make sure that the penalties for opposing the Romans were too terrible to even contemplate revolt. Jesus knew this. Yet, he also knew that he was called to continue his march to Jerusalem. He knew the risk. He knew the result. And he also knew that this was the right thing to do. You know, how do we know? How do we know what the right thing is? We want to follow the path of Jesus. But how do we know that we're not just chasing a false dream? You know, perhaps we're just following the crowd rather than finding a goal that's worthwhile. Maybe we need to spend some time examining our motives. Maybe we need to look at the possible results and decide whether they're worth what we need to pay to gain them. Maybe we need to find out if there is another way, if there's another way to reach our goals. Here we have our friend Stripe plunging into the pillar, and Yellow stayed behind, believing that there was another way. Jesus looked at the danger and determined that this was the right path. So, during the season of Lent, Let's take some time to look at our motives. Let's take time to look at where we're headed. And maybe more importantly, why we're headed that way. Let each of us determine what the right path is for us right now. So, my friends, this week, look ahead, look around, look inside, find a path, and decide whether climbing is the right thing to do. Amen?
Amen.